Imagine this for a second. There's someone in your life who drains your energy, twists your words, or pushes your buttons every single time you see them. They thrive on your anger, your frustration, your reactions, like fuel to a fire they control. You've tried arguing, explaining yourself, even walking away, and yet somehow they keep coming back, stronger, louder, more exhausting than ever. What if I told you that there's a single mindset shift, one action that can completely neutralize their power instantly? The kind of shift that leaves them confused, frustrated, and powerless while you stay calm, confident, and untouchable. Most people spend their lives reacting to toxic people, chasing their approval, defending themselves, or falling into the trap of endless arguments that go nowhere. And the sad truth, that reaction is exactly what gives toxic people control. They don't need strength, intelligence, or even charm. They only need your emotional response. Every time you react, you feed the system. But here's the secret. The moment you stop feeding them, the entire dynamic collapses. Silence, composure, and emotional discipline become your most powerful weapons, far stronger than words, confrontations, or any attempt to win. In this video, I'm going to reveal exactly how to take that control back, how to reclaim your energy, and how to protect your peace like a shield no one can pierce. I'll show you how to turn every toxic interaction into a situation where you are calm, collected, and untouchable, while the other person is left scrambling, powerless, and frustrated. By the end of this video, you'll have the tools to stop toxic people from controlling your life, your emotions, and even your happiness. If you're ready to stop letting negativity dictate your life, stay with me until the very end. Because once you master this, toxic people won't just lose power. They'll disappear from your world without you lifting a finger. Do you want to watch that happen? Then keep watching. This will change everything. Have you ever stopped to think about why toxic people seem to have so much power over some people and almost no power over others? The answer is simpler than most of us realize, and it's something most people completely miss. Toxic people don't gain influence through intelligence, charm, or strength. They gain influence because they know one secret about human behavior. Emotions are currency, and more specifically, they thrive on the reactions they can provoke. From the moment you respond to a toxic comment, insult, or manipulation, you are handing them exactly what they want. Every flicker of anger, every defensiveness, every attempt to explain yourself becomes fuel for their control. It's like feeding a fire. They light the spark, and your reaction keeps it burning. They don't need to argue with logic or reason. They only need to find the button that triggers you emotionally, and once it's pressed, they're in charge of the room. This is why some people leave interactions with toxic individuals feeling drained, frustrated, or even doubting themselves. It isn't because the toxic person is stronger. It's because their prey allowed the emotional manipulation to take hold. Think about it carefully. How often have you found yourself arguing with someone who seems intent on making you upset? You try to explain, you try to reason, you try to justify yourself, but nothing works. The more you respond, the more they escalate. And yet, there's always someone else in the same situation who walks away, unbothered, calm, and seemingly untouchable. Why? Because they understand the fundamental truth. Reacting is giving them control. Every time you get defensive or angry, you reinforce their behavior. You teach them that their methods work. You confirm to them that your emotions are theirs to manipulate. In psychology, this is known as reinforcement. If a behavior produces the desired response, it continues. Toxic people instinctively understand this. They know that the fastest way to maintain dominance over someone is not through strength, but through emotional triggers. And here's the catch. Most people fall right into the trap because they've never been taught the real power of restraint. This is not just about avoiding conflict. It's about understanding the invisible currency. It's about understanding the invisible currency of human interaction. Emotional energy is more valuable than words, more valuable than arguments, and far more powerful than trying to convince someone of your perspective. Toxic individuals thrive on chaos because chaos gives them proof of control. When you remain calm, you withdraw the fuel, and the entire dynamic begins to crumble. They are left confused, frustrated, and eventually powerless. It's worth noting that this principle works across all areas of life. At work, a toxic colleague may try to belittle you in meetings, provoke arguments, or spread subtle rumors. At home, a family member may use guilt, criticism, or manipulation to get their way. In friendships or romantic relationships, toxic people often try to exploit insecurities or push buttons designed to make you doubt yourself. And the consistent factor in all these scenarios is the same. They are waiting for a reaction. They are waiting for you to hand them your power. Now imagine a different approach. Imagine encountering a toxic individual, and instead of reacting, you observe, process, and respond with calm, measured energy. You acknowledge the words, but you refuse to give them emotional weight. You refuse to hand over your power. You don't need to argue or prove a point. Your silence, your composure, your refusal to engage on their terms becomes a mirror showing them that their usual tactics no longer work. And when their usual tactics fail, something remarkable happens. They start to lose interest. They begin searching for easier targets because you are no longer feeding their system. This is why understanding the first principle of dealing with toxic people is critical. They gain power only when you give it to them. Recognizing this allows you to step out of the cycle, break the pattern, and reclaim control over your own emotional state. Power is not about dominating others. Power is about refusing to be dominated. And in the dance of toxic interactions, the moment you stop dancing to their tune is the moment you regain the floor. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this: the strongest move is often the simplest one. Stop reacting. Withdraw the fuel. Protect your energy. Because the moment you do, you don't just silence their manipulation, you send a message that your peace is not negotiable, and that is the one action that toxic people fear the most. Control your reaction and you control the situation. Everything else falls into place. Emotional control is not a concept most people truly understand. When we hear the words stay calm or don't react, it sounds simple on the surface, almost trivial. But in reality, emotional control is one of the most profound forms of power a person can possess. It is not about suppressing feelings, pretending you do not care, or becoming cold and distant. It is about mastering the space between stimulus and response, understanding that your energy is yours alone, and refusing to hand it over to someone who seeks to manipulate it. Toxic people are experts at identifying the gap between who you are and how you react. They know exactly which buttons to push, and they often push them repeatedly. They expect you to follow the familiar pattern: anger, frustration, confusion, or desperation. Most people, even without realizing it, deliver exactly what is required for a toxic person to feel powerful, but emotional control changes everything. When you are calm in the face of provocation, you are no longer playing by their rules. You are rewriting the game entirely. Think about this. When someone insults you, your instinct may be to fight back, to justify yourself, or to argue your worth. But in that moment, you are not only giving them your attention, you are acknowledging that they have the right to affect your emotional state. Emotional control flips the script. It allows you to see their words for what they are: noise, projection, or a reflection of their own insecurities, without granting them authority over your inner state. This is not weakness. On the contrary, it is one of the strongest, most decisive actions you can take in any interaction. When you maintain composure, you create a kind of psychological friction for the toxic person. They are prepared for conflict, for emotional volatility, for reaction. They rehearse arguments in their mind, expecting a performance, but when they encounter calm, silence, or steady confidence, they are forced to confront something they cannot control. Their strategy relies on predictability, on the certainty that you will react as they intend. Emotional control breaks that certainty, and uncertainty is a place where toxic influence cannot survive. This principle extends far beyond immediate interactions. Emotional control becomes a way of life. It allows you to navigate conversations, relationships, and environments with clarity and precision. It keeps you grounded when someone attempts to provoke jealousy, fear, or guilt. It stops manipulation before it begins. And perhaps most importantly, it protects your mental energy. Energy is finite, and the moment you waste it reacting to someone else's negativity, you are depleted. Emotional control preserves your energy, your focus, and your peace, which are far more valuable than any argument you could win or any approval you could seek. Another critical aspect of emotional control is understanding that silence is not passivity. Silence, when intentional, communicates a clear, almost surgical message. It says, "I see what you are doing, and I refuse to participate in it." Toxic people interpret this silence as a refusal to engage on their terms. They are accustomed to drama, to chaos, and to reaction,